hard to say. They're going to boost that here at some point in time in the next session. But anyway, I'm excited to be here today, and thank you all for coming. And welcome to the ChargedUP EV infrastructure charging session. And I want to, first of all, thank some folks. I think it's important for us to do. I want to thank WIA most of all for allowing us to do this. Tim House and his team, Trish and Sarah, and the rest of the folks have been great in helping us get this set up. And so the other thing I need to do is thank the sponsors of this event. This is a sponsored event. We wouldn't have been able to do this without that. First and foremost, I want to thank ConnectX Plus, who's our lead sponsor, and came in first and did that design. Thank you. So ConnectX Plus is an innovative platform that transforms field operations through AI-powered checklists and real-time auditing of photos in the field for wireless and EV infrastructure projects. ConnectX Plus provides GPS and timestamped evidence that expedites end client closeout and eliminates costly return visits. Visit them at the EV Hub up on the floor. The reason you want to talk to these folks is that'll help you get paid. So, if anybody in the room not interested in getting paid, you don't need to listen. But if you're interested in getting paid, that's a huge help. Next in line, Power Design and Supply Group is a growing, smart sub-metering company based in New Jersey. For over 10 years, they've been providing remote sub-meter reading and billing services to telecom, commercial real estate, and EV charging industries on a national level. Very important, if you need to build a site and you can't get power, go see Buddy at PDSG. Our lunch sponsor, thanks to PXT. PXT is delivers, everybody should get a hand. PXT delivers end-to-end energy infrastructure services, specializing in EV charging, battery storage, on-site generation, solar, and microgrid systems. They support clients with engineering, construction, utility engagement, permitting, construction, and compliance to bring scalable, sustainable energy projects to life. See, I missed one along the way. So interestingly enough, we have two companies called Accelerate here with us. We have Accelerate Investment Partners, our friend Graham here, and we have Accelerate America, which is XLR8. So, just funny coincidence. Accelerate America is dedicated to powering a sustainable world with reliable EV charging solutions. They offer innovative and secure charging for commercial properties, parking facilities, municipalities, and is a proud partner of the San Diego Padres. Join Accelerate America in driving the future of EV charging and creating a greener tomorrow. So I mentioned our lunch partner, PXT. I already did that, thank you. DynaCharge is one of our sponsors. DynaCharge is a technology enabler providing an advanced software management platform called Electric Vehicle Energy Solutions for EV charging networks and battery storage solutions that far surpass industry norms. DynaCharge's experience in EV charging management, hardware testing, and R&D, delivering a complete turnkey solution that charge point operators, CPOs, and value-added resellers for public charging, commercial, residential, and fleet operations. That's me. So Accelerate Investment Partners. Accelerate invests in real estate under critical infrastructure that powers a connected, sustainable, and on-time economy. Since 2022, Accelerate has deployed hundreds of millions in capital for real estate under wireless infrastructure, renewable energy projects, and data centers. Now they're leading the charging EV industry, partnering with developers and operators to provide critical capital necessary to achieve their electrification goals. And Sargent is another one of our sponsors. Sargent EV delivers cutting-edge EV charging solutions for manufacturers, property owners, and operators. Their ultra-fast modular system offers smart energy management tailored for high-traffic fleet and commercial sites. Committed to innovation, sustainability, and collaboration, they empower the EV transition with efficient, scalable infrastructure driving a greener, smarter future. So thank you to our sponsors. So those of you who know me know that this 2025 will be my 40th year in the wireless space. And so you could ask yourself, what the hell am I doing EV charging instead of panels here at the ConnectX show when I'm an experienced wireless guy and have all those years in wireless? Well, the answer is very simple. These are near neighbor businesses, and with the state of the wireless business, first of all, being a mature industry, and the opportunity for everyone who was a wireless contractor to look over the cubicle and say, what's my next near neighbor business? Whether that's energy storage, EV charging, solar, there are many, many near neighbor businesses. And with the state of the wireless industry, it's absolutely necessary that everyone get out and broaden their horizons. So, everyone knows that you've got a bunch of climbing belts in your warehouse, and you're prepared to build tower sites and climb for antenna swaps. The bottom line is, it's a new world now, and it's time to start broadening your horizons so that you get out there and you can get business in multiple different industries, whether it's EV charging or others. So I think the important thing to understand is that, first of all, I love the wireless business, and I've stayed in it for so many years, but I love EV charging. I think it's a great industry. And if you look at it dispassionately at this point in time, I think EV charging provides a better alternative from a gross margin standpoint at this point. There's still money to be made. We haven't gotten into the day and age of take it or leave the pricing the things that have gone on in the wireless space these days with pricing. So at this point, EV charging provides an opportunity for you in the audience to make money. And I hope that the reason for us being here today is to teach, to do sort of listen and learn, and teach you about what you need to know about EV charging to be effective, to make money, to go out and be a reliable contractor in the business. So, a little background on why I'm in the EV charging space at all. A friend came to me about 3.5 years ago, so I'm starting the EV charging business, and I need some help. I don't know anything about marketing. I need some help to get started with this business. Could you help me? And I said, sure. And so I began to go to the trade shows and talk to people, and found out sort of what the core of what you need to know to be in the EV business was. And a good portion of what I learned out of the chute was school buses are a major play in EV charging. So certainly there's work to be done for, Blink or EVgo or ChargePoint or others, but school buses are the major play, in my judgment, and a great way for people in this room to get into that industry. So I asked Brad from Bloomberg to be on our panel today. Joe, you want to put up let's go past that one. So Brad Beauchamp is with Bloomberg. And Brad, I've stated it already, I think it's a very important part of the ecosystem to build more school bus charging. Tell us from your standpoint what's going on in the business and how the folks in this room might be able to help someone like you on the charging side.
A great question, Rich. So I'm Brad Beauchamp, EV product segment leader at Bloomberg. Just real quick, Bloomberg is going to be 100 years old in 2027. So how many of you rode on a Bloomberg school bus at some point in your life? So very familiar, right? In the 90s, right? We actually built our first EVs for the Atlanta Olympics '96 time frame. And then about 7 or 8 years ago, we started maturing enough to be able to start deploying in bigger ways. Long Island was our first deployment in New York. We now have 2,542 states and 7 or 4 Canadian provinces, so we cover all the U.S. and Canada. But none of that would be possible without infrastructure, right? How do you charge these buses and keep them running? So super important. In the case of the bus itself, school bus makes an awesome use case for battery storage. These buses are actually V2G capable. 1,500 to 2,500 we built.
Let's make sure that everybody knows V2G.
V2G, gotta talk about V2G, right? So you see, V2G actually stands for vehicle to grid, so it's a battery, it's DC voltage, it's going back through an inverter to create AC voltage and can power, back to the grid. There's also VAX, which is just vehicle to anything, vehicle to B2B, vehicle to load, I just wanna run some appliance
to your house.
vehicle to the home, VH. So school buses are not only a great use case for using the battery to propel, but also have a bidirectional charger to be able to actually use it for other sources as well. So,
Right, so what are the challenges in putting charging in that's robust enough for the charging of buses? I'm a bus contractor, I'm getting 10 buses in. What are the challenges in getting an installation that's sufficient for me to charge my 10 buses?
so Rich, great question. 10 buses, right? 10 buses is actually pretty easy. So you threw a softball. The chargers that are most common for school bus are similar to the home charging that you do for your EV. The difference is when you do 10 school buses, that person isn't in South, right? They didn't buy an EV because they love EVs and they're all excited about putting charging infrastructure in. They got that task. So they originally, first step, have to work with their utility and find out what kind of power do I have coming in. That'll kind of dictate what types of chargers I might be able to actually put in. Level 2, which is single phase, 220 volt, is the most common for school bus still. But if I have more than 10, I might need a DC fast charger, which requires 3-phase 480, which I may or may not have. To be able to recover, should one of those AC chargers not charge a bus overnight, or the driver didn't plug it in, which happens, if they plug it in all the way. Something else happens, connectivity with the software that's driving the charger, the cell phone goes down, because a lot of these are cellular and or Bluetooth or Wi-Fi capable. I got to be thinking through all that, and that's a pretty big task, right? So, you think about it, we've got 10,000 decision makers in the U.S. that have to make that decision if they were to decide to electrify their school bus. First, how am I going to charge it? And then secondly, do I need that vehicle to other capability, right? The bidirectional charger that allows me to tie into maybe even a solar field in my yard. There's one up here in Huntley, Illinois, not too far from here, where they have solar, they have chargers, but they're not tied together yet. There's opportunity. There's opportunities everywhere as it relates to school bus and how infrastructure plays itself out.
Right. So, what are the biggest challenges? Is it the utility, getting the power you need? Is it the physical infrastructure? Is it the time to wait if we need mechanicals, if we need switchgear? What are the biggest problems that are keeping people from having the charging they need when your buses take delivery?
So, great question. In the case of school buses, there was EPA had funded Clean School Bus, so $5 billion is out there to be able to enable clean school bus. That's why so many states and Canada have programs for provinces. The biggest and first one is utility. Right? Utility side just wasn't ready for deployments everywhere and anywhere. Right? These are rural, suburban, urban. They're West Coast, East Coast. They're in the middle of the country. So talking to your co-op, your utility, and making sure that they're aware that you're thinking about taking advantage of putting some electric buses in and maybe getting some money for chargers and buses is the first step. The second one is, do you think people that are operating school buses, transportation directors, or contractors are even thinking about chargers? They're not. So the second big pain point in adopting these electric school buses is how do I get infrastructure, right? Now I've got the utilities kind of said, yeah, you've got power coming in, you can tap off of this power, but now they got to figure out who they're going to have do that. And often it's the facility side of the school district that does that. Often that's the case. And they don't have any knowledge on charging. So the second pain point or an opportunity is being that contractor that comes in and does the site planning, looks at where power is coming in, understands what the needs are to charge the buses. Is there connectivity needed for the chargers to be able to remotely view a dashboard, to be able to control them and pre-condition buses and all the things that are important there? Huge need for that as a school district is making that decision through the school board, superintendent, or the transportation.
So a person sitting in the audience who's a wireless contractor and has done dabbled in the EV space a little bit and wants to market themselves. So the groups that they would want to talk to would be municipal school districts, bus contractors, what other groups potentially are mixed into that, or does that cover it, where you want to join the local school bus contractors association, you want to be a part of the community of school bus operators? Are those the kind of groups that someone would need to market to if they wanted to work in that business?
Great question, and absolutely. So the contractor side, there's an association, NSTA, that's all the school bus contractors here in the U.S. and even coming to Canada. They're a great resource because a lot of those contractors are expected to electrify part of the districts that they serve. The other one is being a contractor to your local utility. Right? A lot of co-ops have people that they've actually authorized to go and do the site surveys, actually do on the customer side, the meter installs, the conduit, the chargers themselves, and then the ConnectX side, which is going to depend on whether you're Wi-Fi enabled or Bluetooth and or simply going the cell system that you're so familiar with.
Yeah, we're going to get to that in the later panels, but you're right. So
Yeah.
Thank you. So, Christian, I'm sorry, I didn't ask everybody to introduce themselves. Why don't you just introduce yourself? I'll start asking questions after you do that.
Sure, thank you. So, my name is Christian Veloso. I'm the CEO of ChargedUP. We are focused on decentralizing the EV charging world. Pretty much what I mean by that is pretty much anyone that wants to own an EV charging business, we can help them that effortlessly, right? So we do end-to-end type of solution for them, and super excited to talk more EV stuff.
So, you particularly are an interesting young man. You've got an interesting opportunity that you brought forward that I'd heard scuttlebutt that existed, but I wasn't sure if it really was true. But you're capable of selling people in this room Tesla chargers, sort of white labeled, but with the word Tesla on it, and it's the real deal, and it's that particular product, including them in the network and all those things. How does that work, and why would someone want to do that as opposed to going out and buying something that would be potentially less expensive than a Tesla charger?
Yeah, well, thank you for it. I'm pretty much like 3 lifetimes away from Bloomberg, so from Bloomberg pretty much. So, yeah, pretty much why you want to go into a Tesla charging infrastructure is pretty much usability. When you're using a Tesla charger, you're expecting about maybe 2 charging sessions per stall per day. When you're using a Tesla charger, you're looking at 10 charging sessions per stall per day. So average 1,000 sessions every single month just for chargers. And so what we like to do is just offer the best, the best hardware pretty much out there for whoever wants to do it. And so that's always going to be that, but the main thing is actually going to be the vertical integration with Tesla, right? You show up in 2 million cars in the entire United States just like that. And so that's going to be the main driver pretty much into why you want that type of hardware, because of the network.
Right. So you could provide the equipment to people here in the room. It's not exclusive to you, but you're one of the resources that can do that. But you can also work with them in other ways. But the important aspect is, like you said, you've got many more charging sessions per unit. You've got other advantages. What about the network itself? Now I can see the Tesla network if I'm part of that system as opposed to some other product. Talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, just like I was alluding to, you show up in 2 million cars right away, and that's going to be the main factor, and also just getting into a lot of commercial property, right? You, by having a sense of credibility to your name, is really just an added value that a lot of other companies are not going to have, just being a standalone charging business. And we see a lot of competitor of ours going out of business, or the big bankruptcy every single week, right? And that's because of usability. You need to, it's not so much about location with a Tesla charger. You put a big on the desert, that station's going to be packed all the time. So, yeah, I have the ability to do that, and I think always go for the best hardware out there.
Well, the sort of theme here for this now is how to make money in this. And so it sounds like that's an opportunity for people to be able to use those or run a CPO, a charge point operator, or be a charge point operator themselves. So how does that work? How could someone become a charge point operator if they were looking to expand their business?
Yeah, so pretty much for the past, 14 years, everything has been decentralized and closed, right? So you need to have $200 million in the company. I was not going to get $200 million as a 10-year-old or something like that. So I decided to do a different way, which is decentralize that pretty much. Decentralize that with one charging experience and how we can make a better experience for the customer without having to keep investing $1 million in every single location. For example, we were just mentioning Region. Region raised $200 million and then only opening like 80 locations. That's not enough. And gas stations figured this out 80 years ago. We need to have a decentralized way so that everyone, not only this room, but in the entire world, can pretty much have a location and have best charging experience for the customer, but also the business side can be very profitable pretty much.
Gotcha. So Graham, and then again, keeping with that theme of being able to figure out how to make money with this, you provide capital for people so that they don't need to go out and spend money for the underlying properties, that you be the asset holder there. So talk us about it. I mean, it seems like a major piece of this. You're sort of like the tower company, if you will, to an EV charging operator here. Talk us through that and how it works from a financial standpoint.
Sure. I'm Brent Kavanaugh, I'm a partner chief revenue officer at Accelerate. We invest in real estate all across the country in not just the wireless space, but also clearly EV infrastructure, as well as renewable energy assets like solar, wind, and battery storage. And yes, pleasure to be here today. Yeah, we are the parallel to the tower industry, even the wireless industry is incredible. You got to see from the EV space. I've been in the wireless space for about 25 years. We wrote the business plan in 2020 and buying ground units and any cellular installation, but we had a rooftop or a tower. And the adoption rate is still being grown. You guys remember, it was, the adoption rate of cellular is funny, but back in the day, there's really two classes of people who were joking earlier about it was either a drug dealer had a cell phone or a gecko had a cell phone. Now, grandmother and grandfather have two each. So the adoption is through the roof, and we see the early adoption of EV. The fleet electrification is definitely catching on quite a bit, whether it be ports and drayage, or bus fleets and things like that. Autonomous vehicles, anybody in Phoenix or on the West Coast, seen Waymo, EVgo, and things like that. Those autonomous vehicles. That's going to continue to grow. We think the adoption's been slow in the retail. Through all of 2010 and 2019, it was less than 1% of new car sales. And the height was in 2023, where it spiked to about 9%. Last year it went down to about 7% of new car sales. So there's a big challenge and some headwinds as far as the adoption. But the parallel to the tower industry and how it's grown is very, very similar, especially in the early days. So citing the locations, zoning, getting power to the location is a massive issue because you need power. Once the land has been powered, it's a very, very valuable piece of real estate. And so what as Accelerate, we partner with developers and charter operators to be a siting tool, to actually procure the land for them. It's a tremendous piece of capital to build these facilities out. But uniquely, these are data-rich endpoints, just like a cell tower.
So what part of the overall project will you finance? Is it one piece, not the other pieces? How does that break down?
So we're a real estate investor. We're backed by CBREIM, investment management group out of Toronto. There's a tremendous amount of capital that's dedicated for real estate. So we, just like in the wireless industry, we don't own steel, we own real estate underneath it. Just as in the EV space, we don't own the actual equipment, we own the real estate underneath it. So where we partner with the charter point operator or the developer is to be a land banking tool. If it's a greenfield and pre-NTP position, we can go ahead and procure land for the developer, well ahead of the shovel, well ahead before zoning, and our money is very patient. It's very patient money. To give an idea just how patient in the renewable space, just to get a solar farm in the internet queue, because the land has to be powered, you have to get tied to the grid. That could be a 3 to 5 year wait. And so we're willing to be in a pre-NTP position, ahead of the shovel, be able to purchase the land, procure the land, so that the preparation can be made. But we are not an operator, we're just a partner to help a charge point operator or developer to grow their space by being the land piece, and that's the space we play.
wanted to build a time charge location. He found a piece of property, and the piece of property was $1 million. You would come in and buy the property, and he would do all the rest of it to make yourself a charge point operator, but you wouldn't fund any of the other parts of that, correct?
Depending on the cost of the land, so that would be that's the variable. How expensive is that land? And depending on if there's money left over, and it makes sense off of what development the cash flow that will be coming from that location, because we want to make sure that it's healthy. But the thing that's very interesting is the fact that because, to not belabor the issue of the adoption rate, but the data tells bankers to stay on the sidelines. The data right now, because of the adoption rate and the just how many new car sales are out there, just how many operating. People who live in California might think it's crazy because every other car is Tesla. Middle of the country, not so much. It's starting to catch on in the Northeast and the Eastern Coast. Florida's definitely picked up. But all the data tells traditional capital to stay on the sidelines, the wait, because you need to make sure this thing catches on. Now, we think it will. Certainly in the legal education, it already is. And, those final mile, those Rivian vans that Amazon brings our packages to our house at like 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, because we know it now, those all need to be charged. So those fleets, the electrification of those fleets, the electrification of the autonomous vehicles, those fleets, that's catching on quickly. That needs a lot of real estate too. But again, the data tells traditional capital sources to stay on the sidelines.
So Brad, coming back to you, one of the things, and this wasn't your company, but a competitor, bus company, made the comment to me and some other folks that were in the room that 100% of the time, when they plug a bus in for the first time, it doesn't work. Because maybe it's not meeting the 4 millisecond time situation, but it's typically a software issue, not necessarily a hardware issue. So, A, are you finding that to be the case? And B, what does that tell you about the kind of resources you need? And what you could help these people understand is that there's a major software piece of this and a major communications piece. So, how does that fit with what you do all day in your world?
So, in the school bus world, the nice thing and the great fit for EV is that it has long roll times, so you have time to charge. But it's this perception by fleets in general, beyond school bus, that you pull the charger out of the box, you connect it up, you plug it in, and it works, right? That is, to your point, not always the case. With AC, single phase AC charging, it's pretty plug and play until you put a layer of software on the top so you can actually monitor and control that charger. You've got that to deal with. When you get into the world of DC fast charging, which is what, again, 10, 12 buses are just going to have one of those, and some rely on that because B2G, it's more preferred to have DC fast charging with vehicle to grid activities than AC, although they're both available. DC fast charging really was never designed for what a school bus does. So in fact, you plug it into a fast charger. Fast charger means that I'm going down the road, highway-wise going to charge for a half hour, 45 minutes, an hour, and then continue down the road. So some of the intrinsic software and the way CCS1 is designed on DC just doesn't lend itself to, I plugged it in tomorrow, I came back and everything was fine. So there's this huge need as people are doing installs to actually do operability or interoperability checking, right? I installed the hardware, I got the software running, and now I'm actually going to plug that bus in and go through a charge cycle or two to make sure that I've actually got that bus working.
We're going to be talking about
Super important.
in other panels too, but you're right. It's interchangeability, compatibility, very important. So what happens when they come yelling at you that my bus won't charge?
So that happens more often than anybody would like to know. When it does happen, we have to work with that, right? First thing is, in the case of some of our charging partners, InCharge, we're agnostic, right? We really don't care whose charger it is, but InCharge is kind of a preferred partner. They provide actual uptime and the ability for me to see that on the dashboard. So I can actually look at any of the chargers that they have with any of our buses. And I kind of work with that. Hey, does the charger just look like the charger's working? Is it something on the bus side? If you can't figure it out, and it is a true boots on the ground activity to take a known good charger and actually plug it into that vehicle and or route the vehicle to a different charger. If the vehicle charges or that no good charger charges the vehicle, then you're back to trying to figure out what actually happened to the charger in the bus transaction. On DC fast charge, it's usually just as simple as the handshake from the charger to the vehicle went too long and it didn't happen. But neither the vehicle nor the charger actually tell you that. You have to be connected. So there's a maintenance component and or a setup or startup component to this, where you're going to want to actually look at that transaction, make sure it's working before you actually truly call that site commission and ready to go.
Gotcha. So Christian, the opportunity for someone to work with you and find a money-making situation, how does that play in your world? What are the offerings that someone might come to you and talk about if they wanted to either work with you to do installs, work with you as a partner, or work with you as a COP, CPO? How does that work in your world?
Yeah, so pretty much it goes along a lot of different ways. So it goes from the real estate sector, from folks that just want to be developers, they have a bunch of commercial properties, to folks that just want to have a lot of operations for their own cars. Right? So we were talking about Slate, a new car company. They need to figure out their own charging network. We can help them now, but at the end of the day, it's just about how we can make volume charging as cost effective as possible, not only for the consumer side, because it offers great experience overall, but also for the business side. So the way that we do it, for example, is very similar to a gas station that everyone's familiar with reasons or everything all together. You're going to spend at least 15, 25 minutes there, so you really want to test the experience as possible, but you want to take out the gas pumps and put it in the chargers. That's pretty much what time churches are about and how we try to get as many people involved in this.
So Graham, talk to us about the equation. You mentioned the price of the property, and what's the good formula that works for you, and what's the not so good formula that may not work with you? I come to you and I say, I'm going to put in this many chargers and I'm expecting this much revenue from the electricity, and but I'm going to have to owe you $25,000 a month if the equation doesn't work. How do you look at it in that sense?
Well, it would never not work, or it just wouldn't happen. So we always work with the charge point operator or the developer in most cases to make sure that it would always work. We sit on the same side of the table to make sure that the equation just works for both our threshold, but most importantly with their operations. And it's again, it's so many parallels to the power codes. It's unbelievable. So one of the biggest things I want to look at is who's the tenant. So is there an anchor tenant, right? And if there's no anchor tenant, then it's variable rent tied to waypoint destination chargers. That is, more essentially a retail model versus a contractual model, which would be, a bus company or a fleet contracted, basically an off-taker. In those instances, we see what that contract is, what that gross revenue is, and we can see what the ground maintenance makes.
It was a method to my madness in having you, this town be structured the way it was, because that makes a lot of sense. But what happens, and I don't mean to be rude with this, but what happens in the worst case scenario? I'm expecting this much revenue from the charger, and I don't get that revenue. But I'm on the hook for the, to you for the property. How does that then mesh together with what you're doing with that piece of property?
Yeah, so we look at downside protection. Right? So we're not a bank, we're not a lender, or we're a capital provider. So we underwrite what the risks are. We're in the risk-adjusted returns business and real estate business. That's what I do. And so we look at those risk-adjusted returns. So some ways that we can protect downside or literally the downside protection would be looking at the developer, looking who their sponsor is, just the viability of if things don't work out the way we all want them to work out. What does that downside protection look like? If the land is power, that becomes a very, very different use of land. And so then it's what other use of application could be. Thankfully, we have not gotten into any bad situations thus far, and we don't plan to. It's really working really closely. Again, the parallels are incredible. It's in the wireless space when we invest, we have a very, very open, close, tight relationship with all the MNOs and all the tower codes.
panel, but, so you wouldn't hate it if I said, by the way, we're gonna put a small cell on this property too, we're gonna, you know, put a pole on this property, 100-foot pole, you wouldn't hate that, I guess.
Well, it's amazing. All the EV locations I've toured and visited, there's either a cell tower on the property or there's a cell tower literally across the street. Because, and that's the other point I was making earlier. These are data-rich endpoints. These pedestals, if they're designed right, are they could be a media, there's a medium for media, put up actual outdoor advertising. Those businesses we work in, the outdoor advertising, out-home industry, like billboards. But you have a captive audience for something like 15 to 45 minutes. So you better have connectivity. For security purposes, you have to have a lot of lighting so that people feel safe, no matter what the time is. You need batteries on these locations. But these are for peak charging periods to make these even more profitable locations. But these pedestals, and I've got a lot of experience in working in another company that these are mini macro cell towers. If they're designed right, and if it's not on the location for that connectivity.
So stay tuned, we're gonna talk more about that on panel two, but we are at time for the first panel now. But thank you all for being here, I appreciate it very much, and that was very important, thank you.